Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today I'm asking the question, may we see an AT-AT in Legion? Now, I've talked about this a lot in my videos, but I kind of wanted to do a video just kind of breaking it down, especially considering that more and more games now are doing larger units, and I mean the epic-sized units, and I'm starting to think that this actually might really become a reality. Before I get into it, though, I do want to remind you guys there is another round of the giveaway going on right now. It is for a Star Wars Force FX lightsaber in the form of an Amazon gift card. If you are interested in winning that, all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of huge, large, epic units coming to Star Wars Legion. I think there's a very good possibility, especially when you look at things that they're doing in other games and that other companies are doing in their games. One thing I want to point out is Ares with Battlestar Galactica. They've just announced, if you've been following them, they've announced the Battlestar Galactica itself is coming. And they've also been teasing some up-close screenshots of a base star that's in development. And those are going to be epic combat for that game. Now, that's still a newer game, but you know, that's going to be something very, very cool. And they look like they're a pretty good size. Now, I have been using the Wizards of the Coast's AT-AT for Legion, and I've used this in a lot of my battle reports, and it works really well as a terrain piece, but if you look at this compared to certain other pieces, the size and scale are just not quite there. So I'd have to have something that's at least 50% bigger than this. There's always that chance that they could potentially go with a sliding scale, but one of the biggest reasons why, you know, people just say that they're not going to do it is it's just too big. It's too big. It's too big. I understand that, and I'm going to look at a couple of reasons why they still may do it. So people said that it's too big. It's too big. People said the same thing about the Super Star Destroyer for Armada, and lo and behold, we're getting that this year. So, and this is awfully, awfully big. So that kind of shows you that they've kind of increased their manufacturing capability, and you know, they're going to have bigger boxes that are available. But not only that, because Legion is a game where you have to assemble stuff, they don't even need a box that big, because all they really need, I imagine, you would have the head as one piece, maybe the neck as a separate piece. The body would probably be all one piece, but it doesn't even have to be. You could have, you know, you have like sides that come on and come off that you can position, maybe them to be opened if you wanted. The legs are going to be different pieces, very much the way that the AT-ST was. I imagine this would come in many different pieces, so the box would not even have to be that large. And when you're assembling it yourself, the cost can come down. So while the, you know, Super Star Destroyer for Armada is $200, something like this for Legion could be significantly less than that. It might be $150, maybe even a $100 item, considering it may be in so many small pieces. I would probably guess about $150 though, considering you're going to have to put it together and paint it yourself. But that is my guess. You know, the fact that you're going to be assembling it gives them a lot more flexibility on how they were to package and distribute something like that. Now, another reason that people have said that they may never be able to do something this big in this game is the footprint, okay? For example, when we look at something like this, the base is absolutely huge, right? And how is this going to be moving across your table? Well, that's a really good point, and I think the answer is that it doesn't have to have this type of footprint. Because imagine this, but like twice as big. You know, you'd have this giant rectangular base that there's just no way you'd actually conceivably be able to move it across most battlefields. And you'd have to do a special battlefield just for that, and that would have to be mostly flat. So how do you get around that problem? Well, easy. First off, it could be a static unit. And that's what I've done when I've used this as a terrain piece. It could be a static unit that just stays still and maybe it doesn't move. And that's part of it. We have static units already in the game. And so considering that they've been doing stuff like that already, they've kind of set some precedent. So you can have a unit that doesn't move. You could also not give it a base. It would be weird either or not give it a base or give each foot its own base. So if it does move, maybe you're just moving one leg at a time. Now that would be a little bit more difficult for them to actually do. So I think if they're going to give each foot its own base or just have the feet go on the map as is, what will happen in that case probably won't be an actual base. It probably won't be, you know, a movable piece either. So that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing it'll probably be something that each foot is its own base. You're probably going to measure from, possibly from the feet, or from, you know, probably measure distance from the front feet, and then probably measure line of sight from the top. So it may just be a straight up rule. It gets to see everything. It's possible. Who knows? But the thing is, they can totally do it. They have a lot of different ways that they can put it on your tabletop, and whether or not you move, you probably won't move. But it is possible that you might be able to move, especially if they give the joints mobility in the same way that the ATST, you had movable joints on these, movable pieces here. If you give it hinges on its legs, it could totally, in theory, be able to move and like, all right, I'm going to just slide this leg forward and then have the other ones down. It's possible. It might be better for a homebrew scenario, but it would be very, very cool. Or it could just be a terrain piece. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to be an operational unit. If it's going to be static and just standing still on the battlefield, it doesn't have to move. It doesn't have to shoot even. It would be fun for it to shoot, but if it's just going to be inoperable, well, let's say it's maybe unmanned or broken, and then you just have it as a terrain piece. It could still come with other stuff, just like the Battlefield expansion came with some new things for us to add to our game. It could still come with some new objectives. A lot of us have been hoping to get vehicle-based objectives, and what better opportunity to put something that's, the mother of all vehicles and have some vehicle-based objectives would be a really cool thing. And if they are in the business of having some things that can be used as terrain pieces, but that also function as like maybe an objective, like capture the AT-AT, that would be really, really fun. So I do think that they certainly could add it, but should they? Well, we have already seen a lot of stuff from The Empire Strikes Back, specifically from the Battle of Hoth. We've got our snowtroopers, we've got our E-Webs, we've got our 1-4 FDs. We're seeing a lot more stuff. We got Leia, who's, well, no, Leia's Hoth. I painted mine to be snowy, episode 5 Leia. But we've seen a lot of stuff from the Hoth battle, the AT-ATs, Snowspeeders. It would give Snowspeeders a really cool extra functionality if they could use their harpoon gun, because let's face it, the harpoon gun is not cool. And they'd need a special errata for that. I actually even would consider them coming up with like maybe either an alternate harpoon gun or just having a straight up rule like with this thing. If you put it in play, the harpoon gun can potentially bring it down. If you get a shot with the harpoon gun and then you fly around, you can bring it down. Give it a couple of turns. Like that would be really, really fun. And I think a lot of people are not flying the airspeeder or snowspeeder that much because it's maybe not the most efficient vehicle. But if it had a new, if it was, I wouldn't say a hard counter, but if it was a counter to a big unit like that, I think you'd see a lot more show up. And it wouldn't be, I don't even think it's like a tournament kind of thing. It'd be more of like a casual scenario game or just a for fun thing. But, giving more usability to the snowspeeders would be a lot of fun. And it'd be very thematic. Like when they announced this game, first thing I was thinking was finally we're going to have a tabletop warfare game. We can finally get AT-ATs on the table. And so it seems like they absolutely should. But another thing is we've seen with our newer Rogue One vehicles pack, we've got the new transport keyword. And one of the things about transport is it's got a transport, it's got a value, and it's got open is another part of that keyword, which kind of implies that they could do closed. And if this thing is going to be anything, it's probably going to be transport closed. So if they do a transport closed, I think that's a great opportunity for them to do that. And because the transport also seems to have a number, you could have, maybe this is transport 6 closed or something like that. That would be really, really fun. So I would like that as something that could come into the game. But then again, it doesn't have to be. These are just options. It doesn't have to be a transport because, again, it may not move. And if it doesn't move, what's the point of having it transporting? So there's a lot of doorways, there's a lot of paths they could take with something like this. But the biggest thing I think is that it's just so iconic. I think also with the quality of FFG's models, even if it was not something that all of the Legion players adopted, you'd have a lot of other people getting into Legion by, saying, hey, I want this for my tabletop because it's a great model. People will be buying them, putting them on their desks, or putting them on their mantelpieces or whatever, and annoying their wives by saying, honey, can we put this in the living room? And she says no, so he has to put it out in the garage. But the thing is, there'd be a lot of that sort of thing going on. And then it was like, oh, well, I also have this stuff for Legion. Let me check out this game. And, and maybe they buy a snowspeeder to go with it. And then next thing you know, they're buying a core set. And, so it would be a great gateway opportunity for model collectors and fans and, people who just want collectibles as well. because it'd just be a great piece to have. And if they do it, they could potentially do other large vehicles. They could, especially since we know that they're going to be doing Clone Wars. We'll look at some other, things that are out there. Well, we've got the ATTE, and that could be both Rebel and Republic. Different versions of it, I'm sure. It could be one kit that's maybe dual faction, and it has pieces that you can build it like Rex's from Star Wars Rebels, the old rundown one, or you could build it like a shiny new one that the Republic could use. You could do the LAT. Now, the LAT, I think most people expect to be in the Clone Wars, but it's actually kind of big. If you look it up, it might be a little awkward to fit. And so I think if we're going to venture into like newer epic-sized vehicles, the LAT might be like right on that line of, is it too big to fit into Legion or not? So if you do something like this, it definitely says you can get something as iconic as the LAT. Or if you don't want to do something like this, you might do a slightly smaller version, the AT-ACT from Rogue One with the orange panel. It's a slightly different build. They could do that. It would still kind of fill that, hey, we've got this big walker on our tabletop. Or if you don't want to do two of those, you could actually have it be an AT-AT/AT-ACT combo pack where it's the same legs and stuff, and maybe the head, it's got two heads and it's got alternate side panels, and maybe you can build it to whichever one you want. That's certainly an option, although I think if they were going to do that, they'd rather charge you for two whole separate kits. So it may not do something like that, but there's a lot of options. So that's what I think. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think that they might do something like this for Star Wars Legion? Or do you think we'll see larger size categories for epic vehicles? I mean, we've got them all over in both, the prequel trilogy and in the Galactic Civil War. So do you think that we're going to see the larger vehicles in Legion? All right, guys, let me know what you think. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Crabbok.com. You can hop in my Discord and say hi there as well. Let me know what you've been playing lately in Star Wars Legion as well. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.